Welcome to OState Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Fans, today we have a very, very, very special guest. Very special to Oklahoma State fans, no doubt about it. Melvin Gilliam joins OState Daily. Even more special to me because, hey, I know Oklahoma State fans know you more for your football accolades, but I'm telling you, I grew up with watching you in all those Tulsa-McLean rivalry games in the state tournaments. Melvin Gilliam joins OState Daily. How the heck are you?
Fantastic, man. I can't complain. Anytime I can talk to some folks, I'm having a great day.
I did not send this on the question log. It's going to be a light moment, but I'm going to throw it right at you because I know you can take it. Was that a personal foul on Garrett Limbrick?
Definitely not. If it would have been on Oklahoma State's sideline, it would have never got called. And if you got to watch the replay, like we got to watch the film, Garrett was blocking the guy, and the guy grabbed him from the back and pulled him on top of him.
He sure did.
So
sure did.
We knew it wasn't. If we'd had instant replay, that would have never happened back then. And it didn't help that it was on the OU sideline and Coach Switzer is yelling at the refs saying, hey, he can't do that. He can't do that. So that didn't help either.
Hey, take us through that game. We'll get into some of the funner stuff, but I think that's the only time I remember as a kid, I was 15 years old, that I was in tears. Can you take us through that game and the range of emotions as a player?
Well, I'll tell you, it was Bedlam is always intense. So I remember my first one as a freshman, and I didn't really know what to expect. But every game is intense, and in '88, we had the best team.
Yeah,
I really believe we had the best team that year. So to get that game and to get it taken away on a call like that, see, I'm big on saying let the players decide the game.
Sure. Not
a call. And it went from actually 4th and inches to 4th and 10. Which, when you got Barry Sanders, 4th and inches, that's a first down.
Yeah, right.
So,
absolutely.
So, that completely dictated the outcome of the game.
Let's back up before this. Let's tell Oklahoma State fans what you're doing now. If I've got my information correct, business banker in Tulsa, so living the good life, right?
Yeah, I'm living, that's for sure. I am definitely having a good time. I can't say that.
Fill in the gap between when we saw you in uniform at Oklahoma State and now with Melvin Gilliam.
Okay, well, Oklahoma State, as you know, I ended up going to the Eagles for a stint and then in the World League. And after that, came on home to Tulsa and immediately pretty much got into banking. And I have been in banking ever since, going on like my 30th year.
Going all the way back to your Booker T days, of course, you played with Dan Bitson, who just recently took the job at Booker T. I'm sure you're very excited about that. He was a big-time teammate of yours there at Booker T, both in basketball and baseball. But I wanted to start your Booker T career with your PA guy. I have been to several Booker T games. Guthrie has played at Booker T many different times. But Lawrence Night Train Lane, that dude is awesome, isn't he?
Oh, he's the best. Night Train is the best. I'll tell you, I can't imagine he's not getting paid his worth, that's for sure. Because that dude, I bet you the stories he has and just the memories that he's seen all the big plays.
Yeah.
He's called them. So I love talking to him because he even reminds me of things I didn't even remember.
What do you remember of Wayman Tisdale on those days? Of course, Wayman was a great player there at Booker T.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Wayman was by far, Wayman was a few years, he recruited me to play basketball. And I said, well, Wayman, man, I think I'm going to play football. But if Coach Tubbs will let me play both sports, I might think about coming. And they weren't having it. Coach Tubbs wasn't thinking about a football player playing basketball, and Coach Switzer was doing the exact same thing. Neither one of them wanted a guy playing both sports. But Wayman, by far, one of the best guys you could ever meet. I still today do things with his foundation. I actually got one of his foundation shirts on right now.
Oh, wow.
But just a great guy, man, and another great one gone way too soon.
I think a lot of people, when they think of Booker T, they think of Tony Brooks, Melvin, Gilliam, and all of these great players that come off the gridiron. But I think of Booker T, I saw them on the basketball court every single year. 16 state titles. Coach Harris, Nate Harris, he's just an absolute legend. I'm sure he's dear to your heart.
Oh, no doubt. I don't know if people really knew this, but my freshman year, I went to Edison because Nate Harris was at Edison. And
he really? I did not know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
Oh,
that
wow.
That was the first year that Edison actually won championships in football and basketball, because Carver was dominant in middle school. And I went to Carver in the 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. And in the 9th grade, back then, 9th grade was still, it was the first year 9th grade was in high school and still played at the middle school level. But they actually went to school at the high school. And I tried to play varsity as a freshman, because back then they didn't allow freshmen to play varsity.
Yeah.
So I went to Edison. I would have been a starting quarterback with Spencer Tillman as the tailback.
Wow.
And in basketball, I'd have been the point guard with Archie Marshall, who went to Kansas, being the forward. So I tried to play varsity with Coach Harris as a freshman and took to court, and they said freshmen can't play varsity.
Huh. Wow.
And then the next year, they allowed freshmen to play varsity.
Oh, wow. Isn't that how it always works?
That's how it was. But it worked out great for me because the next year, Coach Harris left and went to Booker T.
Yeah.
And I followed him to Booker T. If I'd have played varsity as a freshman, I'd had to sit out a year.
Yeah.
So it all worked out great for me. It worked out great for me.
Yeah, your dad was a teacher in the Tulsa public school system. Where did he teach mostly?
Well, actually, my mom was. My mom taught. Yeah, my mom taught at Hoover. Yeah, she taught at Hoover. She retired. Did like 36 years at Hoover.
Yes.
So she was a teacher. So academics were not to be played with in our house.
I think a lot of people remember just how great you were both on the basketball court and the football gridiron. I think what a lot of people don't realize about Melvin Gilliam is that you were also an academic All-American. And so I know that you're very thankful to your parents for that.
I was. That was my mom all the way. She made it very difficult to bring home anything less than a B. So if you were making less than a B, that was not acceptable. So I took her everywhere I went. When I received the academic awards, I took her right there with me and pointed her out. That's the reason academically I excelled, because of that lady right there. I'm not afraid to admit that I was scared of her. So
proud of it.
So that's right. So and I thank her for it all the time, even though she's not with us anymore. I still thank her for it.
That's simply fantastic. Fantastic. Hey, what do you remember of Richard Dumas in high school?
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of people, Richard was a sophomore when I was a senior. Mm-hmm. And people don't realize Richard grew about 5 inches over one year, one summer.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yeah, when he was a sophomore, Richard was about 6'2", 6'3".
Okay.
And he couldn't get off the bench because our team was so loaded.
Really?
I remember we played Edison.
Can you take us through some of that roster?
Yeah, it was let's see. Our older guys, it was myself, because our junior year was by far the best team.
Yeah.
When we had Arthur Thomas, myself, Craig Bryant, Andre Davis.
Ooh, Andre Davis.
We were loaded my junior year. We won state. And that's the year we played McLean in the championship.
Yeah.
And they had us by 11 at halftime, and we came back and won. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
That they thought we came back at halftime, and a guy named Tony Johnson, who played for McLean, said, "Oh yeah, we got y'all." I said, "Dude, we just gave y'all some extra leads because we fixing to come back and whoop y'all." And we ended up coming back and winning easy. And Tony and I still talk about that today. He lives in Arizona because he went to Arizona State, but we still talk all the time. But yeah, we said we just gave y'all a little head start, but we'll come on and play now, and we'll win this game. But yeah, our team was loaded in my senior year. You know, we had Andre Davis, we had myself, we had, I look at it, we had a guy named Davis Stone.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we were loaded even my senior year. So that year we played Memorial in Norman for the championship. I remember Edmond, we played out, and if you recall, the best team that year we thought was Rogers.
Yes.
Because they had Barry Mayberry, Wade Green, Tony Ball. They had a good team. But they couldn't put it all together to make it all the way to play in the state game.
I don't remember Barry Mayberry, but I remember I think it's his younger brother, Lee Mayberry, who went to Union.
Yeah.
Who could just absolutely shoot the lights out of the ball from
Lee
three-point range.
Lee went to Rogers too.
Yeah. Oh, and, really? I didn't know that before he went to Union. Okay.
Yeah, he went to Rogers, and he didn't get to play against us, but his brother Barry did play against us, and Barry was a better shooter than Lee.
Oh, wow. That's saying something.
I mean, he could, if he let it go, it was probably going in.
Yeah.
So every time we played them, I had to guard Barry. And I've been guarding him since middle school.
Oh yeah,
because we were the same class.
It was personal.
Oh man, I had to know I couldn't let him shoot because he never missed.
Yeah,
he never missed.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All those moments, those rivalries with McLean on the basketball court and the football field. Do you remember the '84 state finals game where you threw the touchdown to Dan Bitson and also had the interception? Can you take us through that?
Oh, sure. Now, the state game in '84 was pretty neat because that's when we played Moore, I believe. And they had the big tight end Pritchard. I forgot where he went to school, but he was a big guy. So that was supposed to be the big matchup, Melvin Gilliam versus Pritchard. Yeah. And we down-talked that big time to make it Booker T versus Moore. And what it was, we ended up I know that Moore came out and scored first. If I'm not mistaken, the score was like 7-3, maybe. And then we ended up going up, I think at half, 10-3, because actually at the beginning of the game, we scored first, 7-0, because I dropped back for a pass and tucked it and ran it. And I had about a 40-yard run. Then 2 plays later, I threw that touchdown pass. So we went up 7-0. And then they came out and drove and kicked a field goal, and we were up 7-3. And then they scored right before halftime because I got unnecessary roughness penalty on Pritchard. Oh, no. Yeah, I got he ran a little dig route, and I tried to put a little extra in there, and the referees didn't like it. And I got an unnecessary roughness, and they threw a touchdown the very next play.
Oh, my God.
And, so I heard about it all the way at halftime, and everybody was looking at me saying, I caused them to get that touchdown. I said, well, they didn't throw the touchdown pass on me. So I had to come. We came back the second half, and I think I ran a touchdown, and we went up. We went up on that. We went up 10. We ended up winning 14-10 on that, and that was that championship game. So that was a great game, though. That was a very good game.
You had a big interception in that game as well. That was big. I'll bet
Correct.
Mom didn't like that that unsportsmanlike conduct, though, did she?
I'll tell you this, man, and I don't know if other players probably can relate to this,
Yeah.
but I could hear my mother over everyone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can pick them out. No doubt.
I mean, even at a football game, I could hear my mother's voice, especially in basketball, all the time. But even in a football game, I could hear her voice. And I don't know if that was cerebral, but I could literally hear my mother the whole time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, let's get to all the fun stuff. Your Oklahoma State career. First and foremost, you're the number one recruit in the state of Oklahoma, 1986. We talked about you being an academic All-American. So talk about what it was like being the number one recruit and why you chose Oklahoma State during that time period.
Well, I'll tell you, I really didn't pay much attention to being the number one recruit in football and basketball. I think they said I was like the number 13 player in the country in football, but I was like the number 3 defensive back in the country.
Yeah.
And in basketball, I was like the number 7 player in the country in basketball. So I was getting recruited by every Division I college in the country. So that was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Because, as people know, you get one time to get recruited like that.
Sure.
And you have no experience. So all you can do is just try and enjoy it. But it got to be nerve-wracking because every night, all these coaches are calling you. And you're getting all this mail. And you're getting, and it kind of got overwhelming. So I had an older brother that was in college at the time. It was Central State. Now it's UCO.
Yes.
And he was coming home to help me because he was in college and he kind of saw how the recruiting process worked because he was at Central State playing basketball and they would go down to Norman because when he was a senior, Wayman was a sophomore. So he would go down to Norman and play basketball with those guys. So he kind of knew how the recruiting process worked and I had no clue. So he kind of talked me through it and worked me through it. And I knew I wanted to stay in state. So I was going to OU or OSU. Nobody knew that because I never said anything, but I knew kind of what I wanted to do. So I took a recruiting trip to Norman, just like Oklahoma State, and I went down to Norman, and the atmosphere was it just didn't rub me right.
Yeah.
Because I took the first recruiting, I went to Oklahoma State first, and I got down to Oklahoma State, and you're walking across campus, and everyone is speaking to you.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing? And I'm like, man, these people don't even know me, and they're speaking, saying hi. And I went down to Norman, walked across campus, not one person said a word.
Wow.
Not one person. So that made my decision easy.
Yeah.
I'm going to Oklahoma State,
We're sure glad you did.
The atmosphere is just better. Yeah.
We're absolutely sure glad you did. Had a great career. You were the only freshman ever to play 2 sports. What was that like?
Well, that was pretty exciting, but in reality, that's all I had ever did. Football season, you play football. When it's over, you go play basketball.
Yeah.
I remember Coach Jones saying, now, Melvin, if you're going to be out there and you're not getting to play, you need to come on back to spring football because we need to get ready for next season. I said, well, Coach, I'm going to get to play. He said, are you sure? I said, oh, yeah, I'm going to get to play.
Yeah. Have you ever seen me play basketball, Coach? I'm going to get to play.
Yeah. I said, Coach, I'm going to get to play. He didn't know I was going to get to start, but he said, yeah, you'll probably get to play. So that's exactly how it went down.
So you're a quarterback and a DB, obviously. You're the number 3 DB in the country coming out, but you're also a fantastic quarterback as well. Was that a pretty easy choice to be defense only on the gridiron at OSU?
No, I wanted to try and play quarterback too. Coach Jones, I kept nagging him about it. So my junior year in the spring, I went out. He let me play quarterback in the spring. I got to play 3 series against the number 1 defense except me.
Oh, really?
And I scored 3 straight times.
Oh, wow.
He pulled me right off and put me back on defense.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So on the depth chart, before Gundy got there, because Gundy was a year behind me.
Yeah.
So when Gundy got there, they had Ronnie Williams
Yes.
at the starting quarterback. A guy by the name of Roderick Gaines was his backup.
Yep.
And I was 3rd string.
Wow.
But I was starting on defense. Nobody ever knew that. Nobody ever knew it because it never really had to come. Nobody knew that. I was 3rd string quarterback where I could go play quarterback if something drastic happened.
Yeah.
But nothing drastic ever happened. And then the next year, Gundy came. And so after that, Gundy wasn't on the depth chart yet because he was a freshman. And I was still on the depth chart as a senior.
Interesting.
So
that I did not know any of that. That's neat.
Yeah, nobody. I just did it one spring just to show Coach Jones I could do it.
That's awesome. You know, I kind of link you and RW to quarters together. He was a little bit, probably a little bit more than 10 years younger than you were. But hey, 2 sports stars, both came to Oklahoma State. Both played offense and defense on the football field. Both very good at both sports. So was that a situation to where RW sought you out, or did you have a relationship with them, or how's that gone?
Yeah. See, when I went back home, after playing some pro football, I went back to Booker T, and RW was a freshman, and I coached freshman basketball.
Okay.
So he was a freshman, so I had a relationship with him. As a matter of fact, me and my older brother coached the freshman team.
Nice.
So I had a relationship with him, and I told him, you're good enough to do what I did. I let him know you're good enough. So if you want to try and play both sports, you should.
Wow.
So, but yeah, he was definitely good enough to do it.
He definitely was. So, okay, 1986, that's the year that Mike Gundy took over quarterback at Oklahoma State. So what do you remember of him as a player? And so talk about that, and then also talk about what he has meant to Oklahoma State as a coach and how that connection's gone for you, a guy that actually got to play with him.
Well, I'll tell you, as a freshman, I knew he was, from Midwest City, I knew he was a pretty decent player. I didn't know if he would, I wasn't sure how he would come in and really start playing as a freshman, though. I didn't know that until he got there and got on the field and proved himself, which he did.
Absolutely.
But Mike was a good dude. That's why I remember Mike hanging out with us, just getting to know everybody. He's always been somewhat of a leader, always, so he fit right in. And I don't know if you know it, but we had 3 years worth of recruiting at Oklahoma State, where we were probably in the top 5 recruiting class in the country. I know the year before I came, we got Thurman Thomas, who was one of the top running backs out of Texas. Then the next year was my year, and we got who I was the number 1 player in Oklahoma, and Hartley Dykes was the number 1 player out of Texas. That was the first time Oklahoma State had ever gotten the number 1 player in Oklahoma in the same year.
Wow.
So it was pretty big. And then the next year, Mike Gundy was one of the top players in the state. Yeah. And they got Mike Gundy. So we had 3 years of top recruiting at Oklahoma State, and Mike Gundy was one of them. And, what he did as a player was fabulous, and what he's doing as a coach is even more fabulous. What he's meant to the program, what he's done. I mean, his tenure proves it, I think. You can't stay in Division I college coaching for all the years that he's done if you're not doing something good.
And for guys like you that are alumni of the program, I was talking to Paul Blair about this, Kevin Godfrey. I know that he just welcomes you guys back with open arms.
Well, he does. I'll tell you something good. It was, we just played TU in Tulsa. And I make a call and say, hey, man, I'd love to come to the game. I look up, and Coach Gundy got me sideline passes.
Oh, nice, Melvin.
And
nice.
I was expecting some tickets, and he had sideline passes where I could be on the sideline, come in the locker room, whatever I wanted to do. It was fantastic. That's the kind of guy he is.
Yep, absolutely. I remember, everybody remembers 1988 with Barry Sanders and the great team that Oklahoma State had, the big Bedlam game that was full of heartache and all that. One of my greatest memories, though, was the 1987 Sun Bowl against Major Harris, West Virginia. It was snowing. My dad had actually officiated the Sun Bowl 2 years earlier when Army was in El Paso. And so that was a huge game. I felt like that was a springboard to that next season in 1988. Major Harris is one of the best players in the country. Can you take us through that experience?
Well, I'll tell you, Major Harris was, I don't know if people realize what good of a player he was, how good of a player.
Yeah.
He was. He put that team on his back and gave us all we wanted. I say this, he was Michael Vick before Michael Vick.
Yes, he was.
He could throw it, he could run it, and he wasn't no little guy.
Nope.
He kept them in that game. And if it wasn't for Thurman Thomas, I'm not so sure we would have won.
Right.
Thurman had a great game.
He did.
And he carried us on his shoulders. But Major Harris was unbelievably good.
I believe that game went to overtime, and it seems like I remember J.R. Dillard doing the cabbage patch in the back of the end zone. Do you remember that?
J.R. Dillard caught him a touchdown and did his favorite dance. Yep.
Can you give us a grade on the, of course, rest in peace, his wonderful soul.
That's right.
But can you give us a grade on the dance that he did there? Was it a good one?
I got to give it to JR. I got to give him an 8.5 on that one.
8.5.
I got to give him an 8.5.
That's absolutely awesome. Okay, so 1988 comes in super hyped. Of course, you lose to Nebraska, which was a fantastic team at that time. And then obviously the game to OU. But can you just kind of take us through what the hype was like for the 1988 season and then what that whole season was like?
Well, I'll tell you, at the beginning of the season, we had no idea that Barry was going to do what he did. We knew special teams, of course. But as you know, he had been behind Thurman. And I don't know if people realize this, but our junior year, we had Nebraska in Stillwater.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you this. Thurman couldn't move the ball. We were having trouble running the ball. So they put Barry in the second half. And Barry ended the second half with over 100 yards, playing in a half.
Yeah.
So that's when I realized, man, that dude is special.
Yeah.
People don't realize it. I remember playing against Barry in elementary school when he was in Wichita, and I played for a team called the Bulldogs, and we used to go play in Wichita every year in a football tournament.
Cool.
And Barry and the guy that played for when we played in the Holiday Bowl, Dabby Dawson, that played for Wyoming. Those two were on the same team.
They were.
in elementary
Dabby was
school.
probably better then, wasn't he?
He was better at a younger age. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I remember Barry way back in elementary school. But I'll tell you, he wasn't running like that. He was not doing those things. But Barry was just special, man. I think that's all you could say, because he never did that stuff in practice.
Right.
he was never hard for us to tackle in practice. So people used to come up to us after the game on other teams and say, man, how do y'all tackle him in practice? And we'd say, we never had problems.
Wow.
And I talk to Barry all the time, even today. And I asked him before, I said, did you do that just for us to make us think that if we could tackle you, we could tackle anybody? I used to ask him that. I said, because we never had a problem tackling you at practice.
That's amazing.
Ever. And then, as you know, I played special teams. I did punt return. So I was back there with Barry on punt returns because wherever he lined up, they would kick it away from him. So Coach Jones put me back there. Yeah. So Coach Jones put me back there, and they would kick it to me every time.
That's awesome.
So I'd go to Barry, and I said, Barry, look, man, we're going to line up in the middle of the field. Whichever way the ball go, that's the way you go. And I'm going to block the first guy down. I said, because I can't do what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's how we used to do punt returns.
What was playing for Pat Jones like for Melvin Gilliam?
Well, I'll tell you, I played for a guy named Larry McGee, who was a in-your-face guy. So playing for Pat Jones was very similar to that. Yeah. I remember Coach Jones my freshman year when Leslie O'Neal, John Washington, all those guys were there.
1985.
And 85. And we had like practice, and our practices during football season at the end of the year, it would get dark soon, so we'd have to turn the lights on. So we're in the next to the last period. We'd have something like 16, 17 periods. And we're on period 16. And Coach Jones gets upset, comes down, and starts practice completely over at period 1.
Oh, no.
And here I am coming out of high school saying, is this dude serious? We finna start over?
I chose Oklahoma State this crap over all these other schools.
Yeah. I say, you gotta be kidding me. But yeah, so that's the kind of guy Coach Jones was. You know, if you're not getting it done, we're gonna be here till we get it done.
And whatnot, right?
That's the way he was.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Let's fast forward to this year's
guy.
Let's fast forward to this year's team. Obviously took a hit Saturday. Saturday was not a pretty game whatsoever. But there's a lot of hype, still a lot of season ahead. So tell us what Melvin Gilliam thinks about this year's team.
Well, I'll tell you, we're gonna lose some games we're supposed to win.
Yes.
And that's part of football. You know, we didn't play well. We didn't play up to our capabilities, and that's why the outcome was like it was. But I definitely think we're going to be okay. So I'm not really concerned. Am I disappointed that we lost that game? Yes, because that's a game we were supposed to win. Not taking anything away from Utah, because Utah was a good team. And I don't know if you remember last year, but if you go back and look at it, Ollie didn't get going till the fourth game.
Right.
If you look back at the stats, the fourth game, he had a breakout game. So here we are
K-State
on our fourth game at K-State. So I'm hoping Ollie does the same thing and has his breakout game, and we get started on running this ball. Because don't get me wrong, teams are coming and they're scheming to stop Ollie.
Yes.
So therefore, we have to be ingenious in how we use him and how we get him the ball. I don't think we can just do basic stuff, turn around and hand it to him. I think it's going to help us if we can do some screens, some draws, some misdirection stuff, get him catching the ball. But we got to find a way to get the ball to him. Because I stood next to this kid, well, I can't call him a kid, young man, and he is not a little guy. No. He's a pretty big guy.
Yeah.
And if he gets to the second and the third level, he gets to that secondary, those secondary guys are making some life decisions. Do I want to really go and hit this guy? Because he's not a little guy.
Right.
So, and I talked to him a little bit about that on the sideline at the Tulsa game. I said, man, I'm telling you, you get to that second and third level, you big as some of those linebackers. That means you get to the secondary, those guys are going to be a little leery of hitting you.
Absolutely.
So if we can get you to that second, third level, it's a different game plan. My son went to Oklahoma State and played for Mike. I kind of didn't want him to go there at first because I said, people are going to start trying to compare you to me, and it might be a little bit too much, but that's what he wanted to do. And they called and asked, are you interested in Oklahoma State? All he's ever known was Oklahoma State. He's been going to camps since he was 6 years old at Oklahoma State. So he said he wanted to go, and I was there to support him by all means. And I tell you, he loved it. He loved it.
Nice.
We talk. He's good friends with Presley. They talk all the time. But he loved it, man, and I loved it for him.
Fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. Okay, Melvin Gilliam, I've taken up a whole lot of time. I know you're super busy, a business banker there in Tulsa, still connected very much so with that community, the community that has meant so much to you, that grew you up into the wonderful young man that you always have been. So, hey, any final thoughts here?
Well, hey, man, I'm just excited. I think one of the best decisions I ever made was to go to Oklahoma State. I met my wife there at Oklahoma State. Mark Moore and I, as you know, Mark Moore lives here in Tulsa as well, and we helped start a little group called Cowboys in the Community.
Oh, really?
And it's a non-profit deal that we have a lot of ex-football players that live in the area, and we go around in the community and we help elderly people if they need their yard cut, if they need their bathroom recalked,
nice,
if they need to do a controlled burn, and we do all this stuff for free. We had one lady that was moving. We went and helped her move so she didn't have to pay movers.
Nice.
And so, it's just a way, and Coach Jones kind of instilled this in us, that we started this so we could see each other and talk to each other and keep an eye on each other. That's kind of how we started this Cowboys in the Community thing. And it's grown into something. Now we have fundraisers. We donate money to nonprofits that are doing things for underprivileged kids in communities. So, we do a lot of things like that, man. And it's just great. And Oklahoma State taught us that, and we still, I call Barry, I call Thurman, they autograph jerseys for us and send them to us so we can auction them off for money and raise money to do what we do with Cowboys in the community. So it's great, man. I'll tell you,
it is.
We still doing the poke thing.
That's awesome. Hey, can you still dunk?
No, sir.
That went away a long time ago.
Yes, sir. I still shoot it now, but that dunking is gone.
So we're playing horse. We're not playing a dunk game.
There you go.
Melvin Gilliam, thank you so much for joining OState Daily.
Appreciate it, buddy.